At this point, I will forego any further comments to bring to you a speaker that most of us know from the last election. Bob McWhirter was a candidate for the Democratic nomination for state Maricopa County attorney. So I know you have seen him, met him, and are aware of him. But tonight he is speaking on insurrections in America. And I'm not going to take any more of his time. I will let Bob go ahead and start his presentation. Bob, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, good. Got the screen share. Let me just get this up here as soon as we possibly can. All right. And I hope that everybody can see my screen, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Well, look, the American history of insurrections and pardons. Let's just start out with this. You know, in the winter of 1787, James Madison was thinking a lot about ancient Athens. His buddy Thomas Jefferson, who was hanging out in Paris as the main ambassador for the colonies at that point. Now, this is before the Constitution, under the Articles of Confederation, sent him 2 crate loads of books for James Madison to read. Now, there was a movie, Jefferson in Paris, about Thomas Jefferson during this period of time, which wasn't really bad, actually. And here was what he was worried about. He was determined that the new Constitution would avoid the fate of ancient and modern confederacies. His greatest fear was rule by demagogues and mobs. You know, our entire Constitution was written in order to avoid this problem. All right. Madison was definitely what you call a smarty pants. Okay, he arrives in Philadelphia 11 days before the convention starts. He wants to set the agenda. In May 1787, he takes notes on everything. Now, Madison provided in his will that they would be published not only after his death, but after every other delegate that ever attended had died. Now, his reason for that was there would be nobody left alive to contradict his version of what happened. It was pretty actually a smart move. So Madison's notes are pretty much the definitive source for what the Constitution was about on many, many issues, because nobody was alive to contradict him. Now, this is Madison decades later, president. This was what he looked like at the convention. He was a very young man, about 36 years old. And you know, like I said, he was just a smarty pants. He was really bright. Okay. He had read Thucydides, and he knew that direct democracies like Athens required 6,000 men for a quorum. It unleashed populist passions. It overcame the cool, deliberative reason that Enlightenment thinkers prized. Now, in Federalist 55, after the Constitution is written, he writes these publications to get it passed. In all very numerous assemblies of whatever characters composed, passion never fails to wrest the scepter from reason. Had every Athenian citizen been a Socrates, every Athenian assembly would still have been a mob. Now, just for your information, Socrates was no big fan of democracies. He said, a man who persuades you to lend him money and then keeps it is without doubt a rogue. But much the greatest rogue of all is the man who cons his city into the belief that he is fit to lead it. All right. Well, I think we can all agree that not every American is even a Socrates. And this populist passion, again, was what Madison and the framers of the Constitution wanted to avoid. All right. In Federalist 10, mobs are united and actuated by some common impulse of passion or of interest, adverse to the rights of other citizens or to the permanent and aggregate interests of the community. Look, nothing could have been clearer than January 6th of this year. The purpose of this mob was to assert their rights, their ideas, without regard to anybody else, including the majority of Americans who voted for Joe Biden for president. The mobs are adverse to the rights of other citizens. Just look at the t-shirts and you know these people are adverse to the rights of other citizens. A pure democracy, by which you mean a society consisting of a small number of citizens who assemble and administer the government in person, can admit to no cure for mischief of faction. Okay, we saw plenty of mischief of faction on January 6th. Madison wanted to prevent factions from distorting policy and threatening liberty. He wanted to exclude the people from direct role in government. That's why we have a representative democracy or a representative republic or a democratic republic rather than a direct democracy on the national level. Now, of course, in the Arizona Constitution, we do have citizens referendum and initiative, et cetera, and that provides for direct democracy, but the day-to-day functioning is designed to create this kind of separation from the passions of the mob. In pure democracy, nothing restrains the majority's passion or interest, and democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been incompatible with the personal security or rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they've been violent in their deaths. Okay. A lot of the people on January 6th, their problem is the basic structure of our Constitution. Alexander Hamilton, who is often politically at odds with James Madison, also wrote, "Our real disease is democracy." Now, America is not a democracy, but a representative republic. Enlightened delegates are supposed to serve the public good. The constitutional mechanism prevent the passionate factions with the hope that reasonable majorities would prevail. Okay. So this was all designed to get rid of this. Okay, so look, we have these cooling mechanisms in our Constitution designed to gum up the works, to slow things down a little bit. We have a Senate versus a House. Always there's a tension between those two. We have an electoral college. We have separation of powers. We have federalism. All this division of power is designed to give more rights to the individual liberty. Now, in Federalist number 68, Alexander Hamilton writes, from the electoral college, the electors come directly from the people to avoid a party-run legislature. The electors guard against somebody unqualified, but with a talent for low intrigue and the little arts of popularity from attaining the presidency. All right. The framers did some brilliant things, but I think we can all agree that the electoral college was a complete and utter failure to prevent somebody with a talent from low intrigue and the little arts of popularity from gaining the presidency. All right. The Constitution is only about ideology or specific politics or policies regarding creating a representative republic. That's the only ideological statement really in the Constitution itself. The Constitution is about process. It is an owner's manual. It is not a manifesto. Now, if you want aspects of a manifesto, you have to go to the Bill of Rights, where you start having enumeration of the rights of people. The Constitution itself, with a couple few exceptions, is an owner's manual of the country, not a manifesto of rights. Now, you've got the anti-all government people that seem to have a fundamental problem with this, or should we say anti-any government that doesn't look like me people. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That often gets quoted. Many of us could quote that from memory easily. What often doesn't get quoted is part 2, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. To have rights, there must be government, and rights come with responsibilities. You can't just run around and say, I'm going to live in the state of nature. This is all basic John Locke. I'm going to live in the state of nature and get my rights. No, if you live in the state of nature, big people beat you up and they don't give you your rights. You need the rule of law. You need government. Government is not the enemy, and the framers knew this very well. Federalists, John Jay, another author of the Federalist Papers, wrote, "Nothing is more certain than the indispensable necessity of government, and it is equally undeniable that whenever and however it is instituted, the people must cede to it some of their natural rights in order to vest it with requisite powers." Okay, going from Ronald Reagan on, that is not something that the Republican Party has ever embraced. They want to make government and things like teachers union and unions and all those things somehow the enemy of the people. And clearly the framers did not intend that at all. We need rights, we need government, and we need structure. There's lots of early insurrection, Pennsylvania Mutiny, Shays Rebellion, Paper Money Riot, Doctors Mob Riot, Whiskey Rebellion, Fries Rebellion, Tax Revolt, etc., up until, of course, January 6th. Stop the steal. And then, of course, and I get to wear all my G.I. Joe accessories, right? I mean, who says boys don't like to play with dolls after all? All right. Many then and now don't like the Constitution's process, but the framers had clear purpose in creating this structure. Now you've got republic versus populism, right? Representative democracy is to refine and enlarge the public views by passing them through the medium of a chosen body of citizens whose wisdom may best discern the true interests of their country and whose patriotism and love of justice will be least likely to sacrifice it to temporary or partial considerations. That at least is the goal and the hope, to refrain, refract, and enlarge the views of the people. In seasons of insurrection or rebellion, there are often crucial moments when a well-timed offer of pardon to the insurgents or rebels may restore the tranquility of the Commonwealth. And that's Madison in Federalist number 74, right? This is the true purpose of the pardon power. President George Washington pardoned the convicted defendants from the Whiskey Rebellion. This was the first use of it. Now, of course, Donald Trump just went way off the rails and just decided to pardon whoever he liked or his supporters, regardless of how painfully guilty they were of the crimes for which they were convicted. Now, of course, the largest insurrection in American history is the Civil War, started by South Carolina to protect slavery by firing on Fort Sumter, April 12, 1861. And let's be clear, one side lost the Civil War, but some people just don't seem to want to get that message. And the first time the Confederate battle flag of the Army of Northern Virginia makes it to the United States Capitol was not in the Civil War, but on January 6th. That's when it first hit. And you had people running around talking about somehow there's going to be a civil war again. Okay, one side lost the Civil War and another side won. The right side won, and it isn't these people. Now, you can't talk about the history of insurrection without talking about the fight for freedom, slave insurrections, and Black self-determination. There's an incomplete narrative we have in American history that bad white people caused slavery and good white people ended slavery. Well, the trouble with that, and there were many, many, many good people who ended slavery. There's no question about that. But it kind of ignores that Black people vigorously took matters into their own hands and rebelled themselves. The fear of African-American insurrection permeated the South. One estimated is between 1619 and 1865, there were over 250 slave insurrections. The Constitution guarantees federal government intervention to suppress slave revolts. It's the domestic insurrection clauses. Gouverneur Morris, who's one of my favorites from the convention, was ardently anti-slavery. What is the proposed compensation to the northern states for the sacrifice of every principle of right, of every impulse of humanity? They are to bind themselves to march their militia for the defense of the southern states against those very slaves of whom they complain. A South Carolina delegate was kind of complaining to Benjamin Franklin, are slaves being our property? Why should they be taxed more than land, sheep, and cattle and horses? To which Franklin responded, well, there's some difference between them and sheep. Sheep will never make insurrections. Now you had Gabriel's Rebellion, 1800, Denmark Vesey's, 1822, Nat Turner's Rebellion in 1831. Nat Turner's becomes famous because a lawyer wrote down before they executed Nat, Confessions of Nat Turner. This becomes the basis for William Styron's book, Pulitzer Prize novel in 1967, The Confessions of Nat Turner. Birth of a Nation was about Turner. The title was a direct slap against W.D. Griffith's 1915 racist rant, Birth of a Nation. And that's where it came. Now, the arguments that the Civil War was somehow not about slavery misses a key point. John Locke wrote, slavery is nothing else but the state of war continued between a conqueror and a captive. The South had been at war over slavery for centuries. All the Civil War did was add hostilities between white people. Patrick Henry argued against ratifying the Constitutional Convention, the convention, because of the Article 1, Section 8 subverted slavery by allowing the federal government to take over the militia, the state militias, which, by the way, is exactly what happened in 1957. President Eisenhower in Little Rock, Arkansas, did that in order to enforce Brown versus Board of Education. Now, most insurrections actually involve Black people as victims. You have the Liberty Palace, 1874, Battle of Canal Street. No one was ever prosecuted. Colfax, and these are just to name a couple. Easter Sunday, April 13th, 1873. Estimated 62 to 153 black men were murdered by white Southerners. 3 whites were also killed. And to give any doubt what it was about, this marker erected to the memories of the heroes who fell in the Colfax riot fighting for white supremacy. They not only did it, they were proud of this. And by the way, one of those 3 was probably killed by friendly fire, just as a matter of an accident. But okay, this is what this was all about. Colfax became a case in the U.S. Supreme Court, United States versus Cruikshank, where the Supreme Court ruled the Bill of Rights didn't apply to private actors or the state governments, despite the 14th Amendment, a major blow to effort to protect the civil rights of African Americans. There was actually finally some attention to the Tulsa Race Massacre, the Black Wall Street massacres, single worst incident. Basically, you were talking 75 to 300 people dead, 10,000 black people homeless. Property damage in today's dollars would be about $32.25 million in 2019 dollars. It destroyed this vibrant, black, prosperous community, just willy-nilly. Of course, how does it report at the time? 2 whites dead in race riot, without even mentioning the literally scores of black people who have been killed. Look, the racist elements of January 6th should be lost to nobody. And that is what's following this background. I'm going to just wrap this up now. Something just a little bit about
that flag had gone into the White House.
Yeah. We'll be independent together. I like this talk because, as you know, I quoted from Socrates. I always like doing that, but I'm going to quote from my favorite Christmas movie, which is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You remember when Herbie doesn't like to make toys, and Herbie ends up on a snowbank and he pops up and Rudolph is there because he's an outcast too because of his nose. And Herbie says, "We'll be independent together." Okay, we'll be independent together, right? We'll be independent together. That is out of many one. E pluribus unum. This is fundamentally American. We have great independent rights and liberties and freedoms, but we have to be independent together. We have the need for structure, the need for government. Out of many one, e pluribus unum. The United States is founded on a creed. We're not founded on a common heritage, ethnicity, or ruling political religious elite. Our national identity is not defined in religious or ethnic terms. Our identity is defined in our adherence to the creed of America. You still have this idea of a broad constitution or 2 Americas. One is an expansive view of America as a big country of universal rights with an inclusive constitution. That is the America we believe in. And the other is a limited view of America and our citizens, where boundaries are strict and some people are in fear and people talk about building walls. Daniel Webster wrote in 1850, "The Constitution is all that gives us a national character." Franklin Roosevelt, "The principle on which this country was founded and by which it has always been governed is that Americanism is a matter of the mind and heart. Americanism is not and never was a matter of race or ancestry. A good American is one who is loyal to this country and to our creed of liberty and democracy." Even Ronald Reagan could get this right. Americans come from different lands, but they shared the same values, the same dream. Now, you either accept the principle out of many one or you do not. It is as simple as that. E pluribus unum, will be independent together, or we are not going to be anything apart.
Okay,
all right.
Bob, we're out of time.
Okay. So. Very good. I tried to cut it as quickly as possible.
Okay. All right. Again, if anybody has a question for Bob, please put it in the chat. We want to make sure that if we have multiple questions of the same ilk, that we can ask that. I do have one in the chat. How do we hold our representatives who might have been part of the attack on the Capitol, I guess, hold them responsible or hold them to their actions?
Have faith in the Merrick Garland Justice Department.
Okay, right. which, yes, has been returned to being a true justice department.
Yep.
Okay, anyone else have a question? Okay, I'm not seeing any, Bob, but I don't know if you're going to stick around. If anybody does have a question, they can post it and maybe Bob can answer it, but we will then now move on to our next speaker. And thank you so much, Bob, for that presentation. I'm sure it stirred a few thoughts and ideas by our group.
Yeah. My pleasure. I'll stay for a bit. My Twitter handle is on, I typed it here, at @RJ McWhirter_. So if you can want to follow that, and I'm happy to stay on to try to answer any questions I can.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on to our next speaker, and our next speaker is someone who comes to us from Chandler. We've had a lot of things going on due to the pandemic, and it's impacted our economy, it's impacted our city, and impacted our state. And for a lot of our LD17 people, Chandler is their home base. So I thought it would be very interesting to get the Chandler Economic Development Director to give us a presentation on how things are in Chandler now within the business community, within the boundaries of Chandler. We know we have several things cooking, like for the Sun Lakes Group, Intel, and for other people like AJ, the Chandler Fashion Mall. So there's a number of things that you may be interested to know what's happening. So I invited Micah Miranda. Again, he's the Economic Development Director for Chandler to speak to us. So Micah, I think I saw you on. Again, you have your 10 minutes for presentation. Just keep an eye on Monroe, and the time is all yours now. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be here, given the limited time. I'm gonna jump right into it here. I'm gonna try and share my screen and see how this goes. If by chance, Carol, you have my presentation and can share it, that would be awesome also. So I'm gonna jump over here.
I think you passed it on to me. I presented it to, we can do there's share. Okay, we got you now.
All right. Is that full screen for y'all?
I can see it.
Yep. That's good.
All right, so I really just wanted to talk through what's going on in Chandler and have the audience really understand what we're doing in Chandler. And our activities are really guided by our economic development strategic plan. And these are programs to help achieve the city council's desired goals. And there's 9 key components, and they generally fall into the buckets of business attraction, which is the sexy thing everybody likes to talk about, what businesses are coming, how many jobs, and so forth. But it's just a small portion of what we do. The other areas include business climate enhancement. This really focuses on ensuring our existing businesses have the resources, the policies, and the support services wrapped around them to continue to thrive. We also spend a lot of time advancing technology entrepreneurship. The city has a city-sponsored incubator dedicated to really scaling technology-oriented businesses for growth opportunity. We also do a lot of work with small businesses. That could be anything from helping them find real estate, understanding permitting processes, to getting folks hired. As we approach build out, where we're spending a tremendous amount of time focusing on infill and redevelopment. Obviously, Chandler is about 90% built out, so we focus on maintaining and increasing the economic vitality of those existing spaces. We spend a lot of time on market threat. You got to remember, there's 20,000 cities, towns, villages throughout America. They are all competing for our jobs. They are trying to recruit them away. So we spend a lot of time working to retain our businesses. And we do that through market threat assessments. Once we have that intelligence, we roll into competitive positioning. This is really external marketing. How do we want to present Chandler to the private sector community as a place to invest capital? We also are responsible for tourism. So we do a lot of efforts in conjunction with our hospitality industry around tourism promotion. We are not your traditional tourism destination. We really focus more on business travel, making sure that those individuals joining Chandler for a stay are adding stays on the front end or back end, so we can capitalize on that. And then education and talent. This is really critical in the 21st century, making sure our residents have access to higher education opportunities, as well as helping our existing businesses work through the university systems to access that talent. So recently we've had a lot of good stuff going on. We received a lot of national accolades. I don't put a lot of stock in these things. They're nice bragging points to be validated by external organizations, but we keep our head down and we really focus on making Chandler better. So some recent ones: #1 city to become wealthy, 6th most livable city, #8 city to buy an affordable home, which is somewhat debatable these days. Best untapped city for startups, 13th best city to find a job, and 14th best city for women in technology field. So, you know, it's nice to get these, but we know we have a lot of work to continue to do. We will do that. So within our strategy, we don't try and be everything to everybody. We are very focused on certain industry clusters, primarily automotive technology, aviation and aerospace, advanced business services, healthcare, high-tech manufacturing, IT software. People ask, well, what about X industry or Y industry? If we're not focusing resources on those, it's not because we don't think that there are growth opportunities. It's really because we don't have the depth of talent to really scale up those industries from a cluster perspective. So this is what we focus on. This is what we want to do really well. I have a saying that product wins projects. So consistently, approximately 83% of all of our prospect leads for attraction, retention, expansion require existing space. So we spend as much time and probably even more working with the commercial real estate industry to develop whether it's retail, office, or industrial space to the market, just because we need to have product to put these projects in. So over the past 12 months, we've delivered about 27,000 square feet of retail. This is an area where we're dialing back, understanding shifts in retail, online impacts. We're pulling that back and really looking to be more strategic and actually demolish space that is on the market in underperforming areas of town and looking to deploy how that property can be used for higher and better use. Office space, we have about 12 million square feet. We have 117,000 square foot delivered this past year and another 379,000 square feet under construction. We're still very bullish on office. We don't anticipate too much more of a pullback. I think we've seen the peak as we measure it really with subleases coming on the market. So we're in good space there. The industrial market is extremely hot, about 24 million in existing square feet. We delivered over 625,000 square feet last year with another 550 coming online. And what we're seeing in terms of the space and occupancy is really onshoring with a hyper focus on the semiconductor supply chain. So we're having to work through a number of issues in supporting the onshoring efforts. Having ongoing conversations with our federal delegation at the Senate level as well as House, and really helping our federal delegation understand what it means to reshore. I think it sounds nice, but the infrastructure needed in the public spaces is quite significant. Chandler is one of the few communities, probably the country, that's well poised to take advantage of this, just because we have been proactive in building out the necessary infrastructure. And so we're seeing a lot of success, specifically in the semiconductor supply chain. So I'm going to go through these next slides quickly because I'm already coming up on 10 minutes. But I wanted to talk about vacancy rates in retail. A lot of people are concerned about the mall. Had a meeting with the mall folks just yesterday. They are back to 2019 pre-pandemic levels in terms of foot traffic. We announced a few months ago that Shields Sporting Goods will be coming to the mall, and they'll be taking down the old Nordstrom space as well as doing an expansion, which is pretty significant. Shields is a major sales tax generator. They are going to be very well received in our community. So retail's doing good. Our vacancy rates, well below our 5-year average. We're 7%, and that continues to tick down. So we're very excited to continue working on this stuff in the retail space, and sales prices are going up, which is a good measure of that activity as well. Office, surprisingly enough, our vacancy rates are 10.3%. We go through a lot of peaks and valleys on the office and industrial asset class when it comes to vacancy rates, because we have to build the product prior to having a tenant. So in your larger metro areas, think New York, Chicago, they will build buildings only when they have a certain level of pre-lease space or specifically for one tenant. That's not how the office market functions here. And so we really
remaining, Micah.
Come again? Oh, thank you. And then industrial is the same. I mean, we don't have enough industrial space. We've got 3.3% vacancy, which is functionally zero vacancy. And then we really focus on these 5 core employment corridors. It's West Chandler, Price Corridor, Uptown, Downtown, and the Air Park area. So we vigorously defend these areas from residential encroachment. Once that land's gone, it's gone. And so my team spends a lot of time helping developers, residential multifamily folks stay out of these areas so as to ensure we have opportunities for future job growth. And that's all I have. So thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Micah. There is one question in the chat. It says, is climate change, meaning our extreme droughts and our temperatures, included in your market threats when you're looking at the development of Chandler?
Absolutely, and I really want to give credit to our municipal utilities department. They've done an extremely fine job of being proactive, securing water resources, and then also working with our industry partners, both on the residential and employment side, on conservation, mitigation, capturing that water, recycling it, and then putting it into the green spaces. So as you drive around Chandler, you'll see a lot of green spaces or lakes. That's all reclaimed water that has been captured for use in usually industrial or irrigation. So we take into consideration. It's obviously something that on an economic development side, from a project recruitment, we weed out a lot of projects. If we see that they're high water users, low jobs, low quality jobs, we won't even respond to the requests, and we will encourage them to look elsewhere. So we are very mindful of our water resources. John Knudsen from our municipal utilities department, I coordinate frequently on exactly how we sit. The good thing is, like I said, we've been very proactive. I think last number I got from them was if we didn't get another drop of salt for Colorado River, we've done such a good job. We have 14 years of aquifer resource to draw on as well. So yes, we are very mindful.
Okay, thank you. And one last question in the chat, and then if you are on, you can probably answer anything else you see that I haven't asked. There's a question, is healthcare or the research infrastructure for healthcare included in the strategic plan?
So healthcare / research infrastructure. Not so much on the research side. We don't have a teaching hospital. We don't have a medical school located in Chandler. Obviously, that's downtown Phoenix, Mayo, and in Tucson. And so that goes back to what I was saying earlier, really focusing on where our skill sets lie instead of trying to recreate the wheel with a cluster or service that we just won't be able to compete in. those institutions are very expensive to set up, and they're usually associated with higher education. So we don't really go for it on the research side. The healthcare side, absolutely. And a lot of our recent partnerships and announcements, Dignity Banner, and really working to reposition aged retail properties to provide more healthcare opportunities in Chandler. We just don't have a lot of medical office, so we're also working with the development community to bring that space to market.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike. I'm sorry we couldn't get to any more questions, but again, if you have a moment to stay on, I do see there's another one in the chat. Maybe you could respond to that one if you wouldn't mind before you leave us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. Very, very informative and very much something that we need to hear about, you know, in this particular district. So thank you again for attending. We appreciate it very much.
Happy to be here.
Thank you,
Okay.
Micah.
To take it away, Mark Robert Gordon is going to give us a 5-minute update on what's happening with the DNC.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you, AJ, although I'm sure I'm going to be hearing from AJ about this for months to come. So thank you. Good to see everybody here. Just a fairly quick update on what's going on at the DNC. A lot of it has to do with money flowing to certain states for this election that's coming up for the midterms, as well as 2 states, Virginia and New Jersey, that hold their statewide elections the year before midterm elections, a year after a presidential election. So those elections for New Jersey and Virginia are this year, and then their federal elections are next year, along with all the other states and jurisdictions. So thus far, the new initiatives that have been announced in the last month, a $25 million expansion of the DNC's I Will Vote initiative. That's for voter registration, education, protection, voter protection, my area, and technology. And there are 9 key states that are involved, I believe it's 9, in the outreach for this program and several other initiatives. Arizona is consistently one of these jurisdictions that is being spent in by the DNC across the board. This was a program that the $25 million investment was announced by Vice President Harris a few weeks ago in July. And it's really aimed at all the voting rights legislation that is pending before Congress, that is stuck in Congress, and all the statewide horrific bills, including from our state legislature, that have come out on voting rights. And it's to combat that with voter education and making sure that there's proper resources at an earlier time than ever before to work on voter protection. So $25 million there. A $5 million investment by the DNC in the state of Virginia for the 2021 election. It has been consistently held by Democrats in the governor's seat and most of the statewide offices for the last 20 years, with, I think there was one exception. But this is a tough cycle. And the DNC knows this nationally, and they're investing a historic $5 million at this early stage in the state of Virginia to make sure that it keeps, if you're not aware, Terry McAuliffe, former governor of Virginia, you're only allowed to serve for 1 term at a time. He had to then retire for a period of time. He ran for president, and now he came back and got the Democratic nomination for governor this cycle. So $5 million is for that. The DNC has put out money to propound the message from the White House. We are the political arm of the White House about the vaccination goal of 70% of Americans reaching vaccination, at least one vaccine of adults reaching that. The goal that President Biden had announced was July 4th. We just met it. So a month late, and the problem, as most of you know, which was quicker than any of us thought it was going to be when we were coming out of the Trump administration. But as you know, the problem is the people that just simply won't get vaccinated right now. And that's the difficult work ahead right now. But we did reach that goal, and the DNC has put money into making sure that the public knows that the Democratic Party has sponsored congressional legislation, federal legislation, without Republican votes to make sure that the vaccine got rolled out to everyone. The DNC has launched a Florida ad campaign highlighting President Biden's support of the Cuban American community and highlighting support of the Cuban protesters for democracy, the movement that we really got a lot of attention last month. And they've spent, the DNC has put money into advertising that fact in the state of Florida. And those ads are in Spanish and English. That's the first time the Democrats have, as a national party, have put money into that effort. And we think that that might change the dynamic of the conversation, the historic allegiance for the Cuban American community in South Florida, in particular to the Republican Party. We're hoping that that might, that this messaging might change their allegiance for their important statewide elections this upcoming cycle. The DNC, the DCCC, that's the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee, got together. Those are three separate entities, launching an ad highlighting the Democrats' tax cut for the middle-class families, resulted in 39 million households receiving benefits, tax credits for this year, for this next year, and for a few years to come, I believe. It will help cut the child poverty rate in half, and all of that was done, as with the rollout money for the vaccine, without a single Republican vote. The Democrats are putting money into getting that message out. And then finally, as if we haven't had enough of Milwaukee, Monroe, I'm looking at you, as if we haven't had enough of Milwaukee ruining our party of late, the DNC has just sent out a letter to 20 plus cities highlighting Milwaukee in the press release because they had the convention. We're supposed to have the convention in 2020, but Milwaukee, Phoenix, and about 18 or so other cities, asking them to put in proposals for the 2024 national convention. I'm hoping it comes down to a rematch of Phoenix versus Milwaukee for this. I'm not sure what happens after the Suns loss. I think we can at least get a Democratic convention hopefully out of it. But regardless, Milwaukee was supposed to have hosted the convention this last time. They technically still did, but it obviously couldn't be live and in person due to the pandemic. Normally, these conventions pump $150 to $200 million into the local economies, an average of 35,000 attendees, along with all of the press and the media attention that comes to a metro area. Phoenix, I remind you that 2 cycles ago when Philadelphia was chosen, Phoenix was one of the runners up, one of the 5 finalists for the convention. I know that it's hot here in the summer. I know that it's a dry heat too, because I grew up here and we all know that phrase. It was actually cooler here than it was in Philadelphia when the Philadelphia one happened in 2016. So don't let the heat scare you off. It would be a big boon to this economy here. It would be a big message from the National Democratic Party if they do eventually choose Phoenix for a convention site. And I know there will be stiff competition, and there's an attachment to Milwaukee, given that they lost out last time. But whether it's this time or another time, I think it would mean a tremendous amount for the National Party and for where the Democratic Party is heading and trying to get votes in this new electorate to choose Phoenix, as they have done for other DNC events, hosting presidential debates in Phoenix, and hosting Democratic convention pre-events in Phoenix over the last 20 years. I think this would be a huge step for the Valley and for the Democratic Party if we could do it. So we'll see what happens. Thank you. Monroe, you didn't even give me a warning. I don't know what's going on.
1 minute card.
When was that? I didn't see it. It's upside down. How am I supposed
In
to?
1 minute.
Yeah, well, that was upside down. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, LD17. See you again.
Okay. All right. AJ, it's yours. Watch Monroe. We are running a little tight, so I do hope that you can condense all that you want to in the few minutes that we can give you.
All right. Well, amazing LD17 Democrats. Great to be here with you all tonight. My name is Kurdoglu. You can call me AJ, and I'm running to represent you at Arizona State Senate. I want to wish happy back to school month to all of our children, parents, and teachers. On social media, you can easily tell that everybody was so excited to be back to school, be together. We felt the same excitement here in our household. Victoria, my better health, when she was getting ready to meet her new first grade students. Education was the primary reason that I came to Arizona. I still remember vividly how lucky I felt when I received the acceptance letter from ASU. And it was a letter by the envelope and everything because it was before Facebook. I was ready to take on the world when I arrived in Arizona. And it wasn't an easy decision, leaving my family, my parents behind for a new life across the globe. My mom was proud, but I could still see the sadness in her eyes when she saw me leaving for this. But it was the right decision. I always believed that American education system was great and it will prepare its students for a better future, to be successful and productive citizens. And that's the thing. Education, especially the public education, is the key for our children to have a better life with their parents. And that's basically the American dream. And today I know the picture is bleak. While we are all working hard, collecting hundreds of thousands of signatures to protect public education and our right to vote, current legislature is trying to stop Arizonans, stop us from participating in the democracy. But I still believe in us. I saw thousands of people last year work so hard with their children by their side, on their days off, on weekends, on evenings, to let legislature know what they wanted. So many of us together, we were all there. At the end, the legislature ignored us. And despite all this, I still believe in American dream. I still believe in our state, and I still believe in you, your power to create change. The same lucky spirit and determination that brought me here, I still believe in us. And that's how I'm approaching to my campaign for Arizona State Senate. You Arizonans demonstrated time and time again how you value public education. And as a product of one, I understand the essential nature of it, and I'm ready to get to work for our children, today by collecting signatures, and tomorrow serving at Arizona State Senate, so that all our children can have a shot on their own American dream. But Jennifer said it perfectly. We cannot do this alone. We want you to join our campaign. We need you by our side. First, please sign our petition. The links are there. Make sure you sign, your family signs it, ask your neighbors to sign it. It's easy, it's online. Second, we need you to support us by contributing our campaigns. Even $10 a month will make a big difference. And of course, we have a canvas coming up this weekend. We literally want you by our side. We are looking forward to see you out there. My name is AJ, and I'm running to be your state senator. Thank you all for your support and for your time. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, AJ, do you want to give a quick update for the IRC?
Quick update? All right, this is the exciting part, everyone.
You have 3 minutes.
Oh, that's not gonna cut 3 minutes.
Oh,
Can you be as succinct as possible, because we are running long on time and we have one more speaker yet.
All right, let's do this then. Here we go. We have redistricting updates for you. We have a commission that tried to create maps, and they have 6 criteria. One of them is communities of interest. Why I'm pointing on that? Because that's the only criteria that you guys, citizens, can affect, influence the outcome. And how you can do this? You can speak up at the public hearings, and also you can submit your communities of interest survey to Arizona Redistricting Commission. Our hearing is coming up Monday, November 9th, 5 p.m. Here is the address for you. what you need to do when you get there, you can sign up at the door. After the initial presentation, you are familiar with that because I've been updating you. You will be called to speak. Have your name, address, brief personal history, and talk about your communities of interest. Why you want a group, a specific borders to be together. You gotta tell them that. If you don't have that, it's possible. Just go out there and say that you want free and fair and competitive districts. Especially here in our district, that's a make or break point. All our work can go down the drain if they don't create competitive district. And be careful, it is a recorded and all the recordings will be posted. Few do's and don'ts. Use your descriptive words, know your fact, thank them, and don't be appearing partisan and don't go over your time limit. So this is one way. The other way, you can go to the Arizona, to the survey at ircaz.gov, and this will be something like this at this location. You're gonna fill out a survey, your name, address, postal code, email address, and blah, blah, blah. And this is important. Are you planning to attending on a listening tour? And then you can create a communities of interest. You can say Chandler for the example of it. I put it here. And then you have to create a little map. I want this place to be whole. That's what you can say. And you have to explain. For example, hey, I work here, I live here. This is where my children are going to school. My friends live here. That's why I want this to be together. Why this is important? Because at the end, they create maps like this. This is, for example, 196 people submitted maps. Like, for example, here in Chandler, we can see, for example, someone put it a map here, William Fountain, talking about that. Our friend Kimber put it. We can go here. We have Sun Lakes. Our dear Carol Musk talks about the districts that she wants, why Sun Lakes should be part of Chandler. This is important because I heard from the meetings that commissioners and the mappers are going to pay attention to these maps. If several maps juxtapose on top of each other, they will take into consideration when they create those final maps. So your input will make a difference. I think that's enough. If you have any question, please let me know. The meeting is next week. And this submissions online, you can do it 24/7. You have time. Let me know. I can help you as much as I can. Thank you so much. Am I in time?
You're good. You're good. Thank you. Thank you.
AJ, can I just add one thing? If anybody hasn't read the newsletter yet, there's a training for being able to speak in front of this commission. And that's happening on this Thursday, August 5th at 6 p.m. And if you go to the newsletter, there's a link there to register. So if anybody
wants that, I can't even tell you. You know, if you can go there, just let me know. I'll do private tutoring on that.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yes. And do submit. I mean, unfortunately, the IRC commission hearing is going to be the night of the Sun Lakes Democratic Club meeting. Yep. So there may be some of us, like myself, who will not be able to attend in person. That's why I felt it was important to put in my comment. So if you cannot attend in person, that's what the comment section is for. If you can attend in person, like Steve said, please go to the training on Thursday night at 5 or 6 p.m. That should give you a little bit more certainty of what to say and how to say it. But this is important. I'm not sure when we'll have the next one. So please do make every effort that you can if you're concerned about what's going to happen to LD17 or your immediate community of interest. So we have one more speaker if he's on the line, and I am not sure if he is. O.D. Harris from the Chandler City Council, are you on?
This is your favorite Councilman, O.D. Harris. And yes, I said your favorite, probably America's favorite. I don't know, I'm just gonna take some points of privilege at this point, but those that are just listening, this is Councilman O.D. Harris from the City of Chandler. I am excited. I just want to give you guys some updates on some things that I am doing right now. as you guys know, that COVID-19 has now become the Delta variant. That's because a lot of people out there is not getting vaccinated. Shame on you, because it's a real thing and it's really happening every single day and it's killing people every single day. So if you are not vaccinated, you are a part of the problem. So let's get vaccinated, people. So that's a very, very important message. The city of Chandler is now taking preventative measures at this point to help with rent eviction. So we're doing this prevention program that we're going to be rolling out for people, because we've already been reaching out to constituents in the city of Chandler that was facing the evictions, and now we're trying to do a eviction prevention program. We have a lot of money in Chandler, y'all. We got money for utilities. That comes from the American Rescue Plan that the Biden administration had put forth and gave $195 billion distributed among states and approximately $130 billion issued to cities. So states and cities got money, and Chandler got about $36 million of those funds. That means that that's your funds. That's your money, and you should be tapping into how we're spending it. But how we're spending it currently right now is Ascend, and the Salvation Army is carrying most of the load of those dollars that's coming out to help with rent and utility assistance. Now you can redip. Did you guys make sure you guys write that down? You can redip. You can redip up to a year of redipping. So it's not a one-time, as most utility assistance and rent assistance. It's a one-time play. No, you can do it. And the city of Chandler has been helping people with 2 and 3 months of rent. And if you get behind, you can come back and redip again up to, I believe the maximum is 15 months. So, and actually the average amount that we've been helping people out is about $4,000 or $5,000. And as you guys know, Chandler is expensive right now. And the nation is faced with a 20.4% inflation on the housing market alone. And let alone on goods and services, we're at a 5.4% in inflation just on goods and services. So everything is going up, and probably away from a lot of us. So that's important. So I'm putting that out. As you guys know, one of my critical pieces of my policy that I'm trying to put forward right now is the non-discrimination ordinance. I know that your other city council people are looking at a resolution. And the last conversation we had about it, it was going to be put forth as a study item. So we're putting money into something that I really feel that is just common sense. But okay, if y'all want to spend money that way, that's fine. That's your business. But we're putting money towards a study to see if Chandler needs a non-discriminatory ordinance. So what I need everyone to do, and not just coming to the meetings and listening, I need you guys to write in. And some of you guys have already written in, but some of you guys on the call have not written in. And I've taken notice on that because that's so important to everybody that's connected to Chandler. So please do me the honors, do me the favor. Bless me with your penmanship. Bless me with a signed letter, pre-written template. I don't care what it is. Just send it over. Even if it's one sentence that says, I support a non-discriminatory ordinance in the city of Chandler. Because when the survey comes out, I need you guys to participate in that. And I will also let you guys know when that survey comes out. And I will push it out to our chairman. So that way he can continue to push it out. I will let Carol know about it and our key leaders know about it so we can get that out. And that can be a big help as well outside of the letters. Filling out that survey will be a big help. And lastly, I'll say this and I'll take my seat. I wanted to make sure you guys know that the holiday season is coming up, and I really would like to see us as an LD 17, because yes, Councilman OD Harris lives in LD 17. This is my district. And I want to see us come together really strong this year for the Christmas year. And however we're planning or whatever the pre-plans for that is, I really want us to have a strong impact, not just coming together with each other, but making sure that we come together to make sure Christmas is happening. And this is the time that we need to be raising funds and dollars and whatever else programs we're going to connect with. But I really want to see us do it in a major way. And lastly, I forgot to say this, but I did request I put a request into the chief of fire to do a presentation on August the 12th before city council to let us know exactly where we are in terms of vaccinated people versus unvaccinated people. How many people have been actually diagnosed with the Delta variant that's lurking around? And I'm also asking him to share what are some precautionary measures that we need to be still taking as a city. If we need to even talk about masks or we don't need to talk about masks, at this point, I'm very much convinced that this Delta variant is killing people, including people who could be vaccinated. So I think we need to take a deeper dive, and we must take it serious. So on August the 12th, those that can, please tune in to our meeting. Please tune in on YouTube, City of Chandler YouTube, or whatever. And whatever comment that you may have or concerns, please make it a point. Make it a point to send it in. And that's what I'm going to leave you guys with, because I think I'm only supposed to have about 5 minutes. And I done took 10 minutes, and I know you guys are tired, but I love you guys. And for all the support you need to show and give to me, I feel that love, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you all so much. It was a great, informative meeting, and I appreciate you all being here.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone.